forgot we're supposed to put a picture up. Okay, we good.
All right, 5:31. We'll call the Parks Recreation November meeting to order.
Yeah.
We have some new members, so I think we'll just go around and do introductions. I'm Jason Gerwin, Chair. Parks is my passion. I work for Federal Ways Parks Department and then volunteer here in Lakewood. So.
And I'm Janet Spingat. And I was born here and I live on American Lake and I'm passionate about lakes. I'm also on the state noxious weed control board, so you'll hear me a lot talking about invasive species.
Anessa McClendon. I work on the JVLM and I just moved into Lakewood.
Hey.
Hey, welcome. You're local now.
I'm Ian Crawford. I'm the director here, and we're glad to have everybody here tonight.
I'm Kate Reed. I was born and raised here. Worked in Parks and Recreation Department in San Francisco for 25 years. And when I came back, retired here, I decided I would get involved.
Cool, here you are.
Yeah, here I am.
And I'm Shelley Thiel. I come from the Kent Covington area, moved into Lakewood about 4 years ago, and want to get involved. Prior to retiring, I was a teacher and a coach and an athletic director at Enumclaw, and then I took a job with the state of Washington, the WIAA. I was the district director, overseeing approximately 80 high schools and all the activities and athletic programs. Looking forward to joining the team.
Welcome.
Thank you.
There's Alan. My name is Vito Iacobazzi. I'm the vice chair. Been with the Lakewood thing for over 20 years. I know. I used to work for Metro Parks Tacoma and I retired in 2018 after 35 plus years. So I like parks and I see what we can do, make them better.
I'm Nikki York, the office assistant for the Parks Department. I handle all of our reservations, all of our special events. Yep, help out with all the boards and yep, I'm usually the one who sends all the meeting stuff out. Your turn to introduce yourself.
I'm the last one to get here tonight. I'm Alan Billingsley. I've been on the Parks Board 15 years, I don't know, a long time. I've lived in Lakewood a long time, just enthusiastic about parks and kids.
All right, thanks for being here, everybody.
And speak up.
Thanks for being here, everybody. Next, we're looking to approve the October minutes. If everyone's had a chance to review, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes for October 24th.
Vito with the first, Alan with the second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the unanimous approval streak continues. Nice work. I don't think Charlie's not here for public comment, so no public comment and no unfinished business. And so we will move to Charlie and she's going to give us an update on her Eagle Scout project.
All right, so hello everyone. My name is Charlie Jensen, and today I'm going to give a review on my Eagle project after I had finished it, so that way I can get finishing approval signatures from Ms. Dugsworth. So the original proposal was to install markers for the major turns for the Fort Silicon course, which were 10 critical turns. This would have benefited the community by signaling where to turn, but also will in turn benefit the wildlife by keeping distances caused by humans to a minimum. Benefits including providing a clear path for users and protecting natural areas along the route. I think this is the old one.
I mean,
Yeah, this is the old one. Apologies.
sorry. This is in PDF form, so just have to scroll down.
Alright,
Oh, there you go.
there we go.
Okay.
There we go. Apologies.
I don't think I shared. Did I share it?
Oh, you did not.
Just go look at Zoom. On the share screen.
There we go. Right, this one.
Yeah, that one.
There we go. There we go. All right, so back on track. Again, the project was to install 10 critical signs along the 5K course. What's that?
I think you did the PDF. not PowerPoint.
Yeah, so you just have to scroll down,
With
do the
the
arrows, yeah.
Yeah, so my original proposed design marker to you all was to have two square steel sign poles connected to a piece of wood with a carved arrow, which would have been then posted into anchor with cement. That way it's easy for would have been easy to remove for mowing and all that stuff. This was the final design that you all had given me directions or given me ideas and said, given me changes to add on to the project. And this is what was come up with. Timeline, first off, before it was accepted, I was obtaining donations. So that way, after it was approved, I would have been able to immediately start working. Which then on the 26th of September, you all approved my project. The 2nd of October, it got approved by the council, by the council representative for Eagle Scouts. From the 1st to the 7th, signs were routed, meaning that we got donations from Home Depot, which I will talk about more, that were cut and then routed from. Again, I will talk of who did that later. And then from the 9th to the 21st, we painted the signs, we stained them, and then we painted the inside a white. The 22nd, we digged the holes and then covered them with cones. From the 4th to the 5th, we installed anchors and signs, and then today, I'm giving you all a final report. Now, material donations. From Zumar, they donated me the telespars and the anchors for the signs. Home Depot, 2 different Home Depots. The first one that we went in Bonnie Lake. They had donated the wood. They also donated paint and also paint brushes, cheap ones because I'm not using my expensive ones. And then a second Home Depot location that we went to get the screws and also to get an auger for my grown-ups to use because I'm not allowed to use those. So that way we could dig the holes into the ground and basically just making sure that we actually got the holes dug correctly. And so that was a second Home Depot, which actually the screws and the auger we had originally planned on paying out of pocket when we had told the one of them being the manager and the other being in charge of the rental services. They had donated us the screws and the time that we used the auger, which was of course very nice. Then we have Tom Watson, who is the owner of Watson Wooden Boards, where he carves different signs and all that stuff. He donated them and asked in return just $50, which is very much lower than the price he usually asks his customers. He actually is running for a place on the city council of Bonnie Lake. Just letting a little tad bit of information. Now for one of the first stage of the signs was staining the signs, painting the signs, and building the signs. These are a bunch of different pictures. There's me and a bunch of, we have my aunt, my uncle, and a friend, some other people I know helping out, building the signs, staining the signs, and all that. Any questions on process of staining them and building them?
What kind of stain did you use?
I do not know the name of the stainer.
Is it for outdoor?
It is for outdoor. Now, this is a little tad bit of information that we didn't think of. We totally actually had forgotten to keep our windows open, and we did this in our living room. And so fumes, no ventilation. So therefore, after getting headaches, we're like, we should probably get ventilation in here. So don't worry, I did not faint. And then of course, my uncle over here used the power drill to make sure we got the signs dug into the sign, the holes dug into the signs to screw in the signs. And we have me screwing in the sign, and of course, all that stuff. Prepping the site. This was digging the holes. We don't have a picture of my uncle using the auger, but we do also have a picture of me using a post hole digger. And then we also have putting the anchors into the holes and cementing them in. Any questions on this part of the process? There you go. Installation day. Now, on this day, I had a bunch of my scout troop come to the park and helped me build the signs. We had two different groups. My uncle led one group, I led the other, because my uncle knew exactly what was wanted for the signs. So me and my group took one part of the park, while my uncle's group took the other part of the park. And we have pictures. I don't know if you all see that really good, but we have pictures of us installing the actual signs into the ground. Then we have a final picture of everyone all together with the last one, except for two, because of some challenges, which again I will talk over. Which one of the challenges we had is we could not get GPS coordinates. We have a map of where on the park they are, but we sadly don't have specific coordinates. We did our best to attempt to get coordinates. Both me and my uncle tried it both on both of our phones. We could not find a way of getting GPS coordinates, but we do have a map of where each one is. Thank you. Another one of the challenges we had is for the signs carved. I know our original design was to have a runner on the signs. Sadly, 3 of the signs will not have a runner on them, because I met with Joe Clark, which is the coach of the country club, cross country club. And so we met with him after we had already had the signs routed. So we were not aware that we needed 5 going right and 5 going left. And we only had 2 going left and we had 10 going right. So we, instead of getting new supplies, routing them again, we just, on the last 3, we cut off the runner and just directed them on the same way, the way that they're supposed to go. And since the other signs have the runner, those who are running the course should know, okay, that's for me. It's like the other ones, except without the runner. So, any questions out of all?
You didn't want to go for the upside down runner then, I take it.
No. No.
How many, oh, I'm sorry.
Charlie, I appreciate this coming back to us. We don't usually get a follow-up final result, so I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course.
Very good job. Great.
I had a question. How many volunteer hours do you think that you utilize for all of the project, though, not just the day of installation?
I know that so a lot of the so for building paint, except for painting, building, a little bit of painting, the staining and also digging the holes and installing the anchors were all done by me, my uncle, and my aunts, because we wanted one single day of all of the scouts there and helping out. For painting wise, I believe we spent 3 or 4 hours maybe. I meant on the one day that we had other scouts at our house. For days that we'd spent with just us doing the painting, it's been a few days.
Well, yeah, so not that you have to tell me now, but if you could think about that and your time and your uncles and your aunts and all the friends, it's like that all counts. So at some point, we'll probably do a recognition for your project with our city council. And so one of the things that I'd like to share is how many hours that you work on this project. So
Yes.
Yeah. So all the people times the hours times the
Of
days.
course.
Yeah. So that would be good to share with us. You don't have to tell us today, but it sounds like you had a lot of folks working
Yes,
really hard.
I
So
will.
that's great.
When I calculate that all out, I will email you.
As you mentioned it, how many of the scouts were involved?
All right, let me.
Yeah, I mean, no. Exact number.
Okay, let's see.
Okay.
4, 5, this one has all this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those are little kids. I'm not counting little kids. I'd say about 6.
Okay. Last question for me. The course, is it established course, actual 3.1?
It is.
5K?
It is
What
an
is-
actual established course, but that was established by the cross country club. All I was doing was making signs for the cross country
Sure.
club. So that way they had those who are just now coming into the club, they might not know the established course all of that well, might not have memorized it yet. So that way it's more they can have a way of reminders like this is the way to go.
One of the things we try to do is to have all the different groups utilizing the same course so that we could reduce the impact of the site as well as making sure that routes are open or if there's any safety issues. Nobody.
So is this a route that's gonna be used by fun runs and other organizations?
We typically have everybody try to use the same line. Yeah, I think there's a group or two that likes to sort of do their own thing, but mostly we try to keep everybody on the same course.
Is there a beginning point that we can all find?
Yeah, I can send the maps out.
There is for the course, there is a beginning point. I don't have that on my presentation right now. But there is. Okay,
We finally done with that.
yeah, I don't have that on my presentation, so.
I'd say job well done, and it
Yes,
sounds
yeah,
like your
excellent.
uncle did a lot of work, so I'd like to call him out by name, so for the
Right
record.
there.
Well, what's his name?
His name is Paul Walters.
Paul Walters, thank you for your help and support on that, thank you. So, great job, Charlie,
Thank you.
thank you.
Sorry.
Oh, you're okay.
Sure.
Is it possible to get a picture with Charlie and all of you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you go back by.
For their official BOR, Board of Review for their legal, that would be awesome, thank you so much.
Can you get us
Oh, this is perfect, wow. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
On a side note, the Eagles are supposed to come back for a final presentation as part of their
Okay.
So that is an official thing.
Oh, there you go.
Good to know, good to know. Thank you.
you.
I know you can think of it. You might want to add that to the
Yeah.
form that's there.
That's refreshing. Very nice.
Yeah.
Yep. That's good. With that being said, we'll roll on to number 2 in our 2024 work plan.
So, as you all know, the people that have been here for 20-some years and for the new folks. So the city council meets with their advisory boards, once a year. And, they start in January and they sort of space them out throughout the year. So we, I believe are going in June. That's the time that we do it. And so, in advance of that, the city council approves the board's work programs and meeting schedules. So, so that's why whatever we put on here, we have to then report in June, you know, this is what we worked on, this is what we're working on, this is where we're going. So we put this together based on work programs we have coming up, interest from the board previously, or things that we think should, you know, might be of interest coming up. So we just wanted to go over it and see, is there something that we missed, or is there something else we might want to add? So this, of course, lists all of our people. This is the format that we use for all of the boards and commissions. So just getting down to, we meet the 4th Tuesday of each month at 5:30 p.m. There's a 5th Tuesday. We still meet on the 4th Tuesday. Sometimes we may adjust it based on something with schedules, or people are going to be, a lot of people are going to be out of town, but typically we still post it out. So the ideas that we're looking at for the work plan, and then we'll talk about how we've sort of put them in for the months, is one is the Nisqually Partnership Project, really important project we're working on with the tribe. And so we just want to make sure that we're keeping you informed along the way. We usually do a CIP plan, capital improvement program update. We'll go over that with you, talking about all the great things that we have happening and things that are coming up. We typically do a special event update. We do some amazing activities and events, and we'll have our special event staff come in and do that. We have our street end prioritization and project recommendation. That was a big project we worked on last year, or was that earlier this year? Earlier this year.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was an update to that, for that project. And so council said, oh, this is great. So we talked about doing one in the 25-26 budget. So we picked some time to go through, sort of re-review the study that we did, do some kind of reprioritization and make sure we're still thinking about all the same things, and pick a site so that we can be ready for the 25-26 budget to put that in there. Park sign project update to include wayfinding signs and reader boards. That was something, in fact, it was on my director update. Council approved your recommendation that you shared. And so we're moving forward with that design, but we'll come back to you and kind of, here's what it's going to really look like. And here's what we're thinking about, like the nomenclature, the wording, some new maps, things like that. So we can get feedback on that. Climate change initiatives, and then the urban forestry program. That was something that we've been, mostly community development's been working on the last 2 years. And Vito, were you our liaison to that group, or was that you, Jason?
The tree, weren't you on the tree?
I thought you were.
No,
No.
Oh, sorry, Alan.
One of you guys.
One of the old guys.
So, but anyway, just to come back and find out what's happening with that, any policy changes, maybe find out how the policy changes have impacted development. And then also the urban forestry program is a new program. And one of the conversations was, is it going to land somewhere? And is it going to be sort of this departmental support? Because right now, primarily it's focused on enforcement of it. Also with the permitting, and I got to tell you, permitting. What's happening with that. And then once we kind of, they get a handle on it, it's like, well, how are we going to create, build more canopy? How are we going to create more, provide more trees, or the reforestation or the replanting, trees that have a life cycle, and are preparing for that. So kind of what's the urban forestry program? Where are we? So, I don't think they've hired anybody specifically, but I do think that they've got resources set up to do that, and they're working through that now. Of course, if the council wants us to work on any park code issues, they could provide direction to us. We don't have anything on the horizon right now, but we typically kind of go through it's usually about every 2 years, we go through the park code and just do a review. You know, how is it looking? We simplify things, we change things based on current operations or trends or problems. So take a look at that. And then, of course, if they want us to facilitate the naming, renaming things, that's something that this board participates with. And then having an update on these future expansion opportunities. City's been working with Camp Murray boat launch. We've been talking about this for 20 some years is that they did put some ARPA money in there to actually do a master plan so that we are not just talking about should we or could we, but really what could or would it look like and cost so that we could be ready for future grants. So working on an MOU right now, telling you my whole director's report. And then the historic Fort Steilacoom cottages, those are those 4 officer houses, we call them the cottages. City's been working with DSHS to see how might we take on some ownership or some more control to help them not fall to such, you know, disrepair. So, and so we're kind of working with the Historical Society, who's the current lease of the property, and how that might work with DSHS and the development that they're doing. So anyway, we'll give some updates on that. So that's the work plan topics. And are there any other topics or things before we start talking about where it might fall on the schedule? Are there other things that we might want to brainstorm, talk about, think about, or just bring in experts to talk about something, give us some education? It doesn't always have to be, you know, something that we're currently looking for. Well, you know, it's not on here that we're working on right now, that'll be coming soon is Edgewater Park. I mean, it's kind of a capital project update,
it's
but we're
under-
gonna be doing, but I mean, it's not on our work
Okay.
plan, so.
Oh, recommendations.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the topics for like a date, but because we do have that coming up, but Edgewater Park. Master
For
plan.
me, if and when it made sense, the development of the Pierce College field at Fort Steilacoom, getting a little more info on that would be, you know,
Okay.
an update as it makes sense. I mean, don't need to make something up for
Well, we
us.
kind of
but-
talked about the CIP being, I know I'm doing it for council and master, so I always like to do it right around that time.
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
More detail, but, so we can do that at Pierce College update.
Is there an opportunity to think about playground design? Because what I see in Lakewood is not necessarily and I don't want to use the word not the best, but doesn't have as many opportunities for kids to develop. Everything that I looked at in California, and I'm good about looking at kids since I've got granddaughters now, they use their climbing structures. I mean, they've got landscape structures has some really interesting stuff. And
More modern things, you mean?
well, but they're more climbing things, so the kids are not just in a swing or there's just not enough activity what I see in our playgrounds. And even using hillsides where slides, if you have a slide going down a hill. I was thinking about that for American Lake Park, because that would be such a great thing is to have a concrete slide going all, I know.
No, I tried it for Harry Todd too, but we are
It didn't work.
planning to do that. No, well, it
Well,
didn't fit with
just-
the ADA stuff. But no, I think that's a good topic because we are doing a lot of different things and like Words Lake's gonna be very much a natural playground, natural theme. So we could do a playground design update and brainstorming as well. We are gonna be looking at some replacements in the next 3 years. So yeah, so that's a great topic. Bring in somebody that can help facilitate that or.
And I can share pictures because I take lots of pictures. Like
Sure. No, I think that's great.
For me, and if it makes sense again, I always like hearing updates on the senior center, senior services, or
Yeah.
lack of the senior center, sorry.
Is there an opportunity for it to move?
Well,
I've heard
it's,
things.
well, it's not, it's already moved. I mean, we moved out at COVID and we haven't been able to get back in the building.
No, I'm talking about the one that's over there by The police department.
the Lakewood Community Center.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we were for 15 years. And then during
Where's it now?
COVID, it's here.
Oh.
It's at the park, it's at the pavilion, it's at the police station, it's out of the trunks, we drive through the parking lot, we do, not,
Jesus,
yeah, we're,
the library space, such a.
I think the people that designed the library were the same ones that designed the Lakewood
So,
Community Center, because
okay.
it's, you know, the gym and the meeting room at the entry is still in great shape and being used primarily by the Specialized Recreation Program. I had a good presentation on that. The rest of the building, you can't get into it. It's, you know, hard hat only and keep watch because it's gonna fall on your head. So, yeah, we haven't been able to be in that building since COVID.
Okay.
We all rushed out because, you know, COVID and we never got to go back in. So, but no, that's a
Yeah.
great senior
Mhm.
services update. Bring in, just to give you an update what we are.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
To rebuild that program after all these years.
And I kind of called council out at our joint meeting this year too on it, so.
It's not that they're not supportive of it.
Right, no, no,
looking
it's
for space
trying to
and
figure it out in money.
Able
Yeah.
to find the right space, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it still is funded as much as it
Yeah,
has been
yeah.
before. Just haven't had to pay rent anywhere.
I'm thinking of boat launches and usage of lakes. How are people using them? Where do we need to address their needs? How do we preserve our lakes by a good part stewardship?
So let's look at how we fit the things that were previously on the list here and how we might move or tuck other things in if we decide that that's, we want to add that, or again, council makes the decisions on what we do if we think we have time. So our meeting in January, we're going to be, we always elect a chair and a vice chair. And then we are doing the Edgewater Park Master Plan update at that meeting because we told everybody that came to our last meeting, we'd give them some options to consider, which we will.
Is that gonna be open to the public at that time? You're gonna invite them back?
Oh, yeah, everybody that wants to come, because we'll have the options
Yeah,
to have the conversation about. And then hopefully, you know, what we like, what we don't like, and what we want to come up with a preferred.
So that's the best ideas
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah.
Best choice.
Well, and kudos to you, Mary, to wrap that meeting up because it was diverging and
Yes.
to pull it back in and close it down. That was skillful.
In February, we will bring back what council approved, just so you know what our work plan is. And then we thought we would do a special event update. It kind of gives you the review of what we did all last year, and then it'll give you an update of what we have coming up in the year. And then in March, the park sign project update plus the wayfinding signs, that's a big project we're working on. So we would bring either the consultants back in or do it by Zoom, but give you an update on where we're at with that. We talked about the historic Fort Steilacoom building ownership transfers, and we want to prepare for Park Appreciation Day.
What is the historic Fort Steilacoom building ownership transfer?
Well, that's those cottages I talked
The
about.
cottages,
Historic
okay.
Fort Steilacoom,
Okay.
buildings, we could say cottages there.
Yeah, because I keep thinking it's the H mark when I read historic, because that was historic as well. Okay.
Yeah, no, this would be the actual historic Fort Steilacoom cottages, and
Cottages, yeah.
so,
Okay.
we're working on that, and so, and we prepare for Park Appreciation Day, that's typically, so that could be a day, I don't see that update as being all that filling, so that could be a day to plug something else in there, maybe, actually, the ball fields are supposed to be done, they're talking
March.
about,
Right?
yeah, I'm saying St. Patrick's Day.
Mm.
They talked about Valentine's Day and I said, I think the leprechauns might get involved. So, maybe. I mean, we can always do an update on those. What would you really like to know about it? Because we are doing.
To me, it's just how it's going schedule. I mean, I drive by and I'm watching it, but
It's on schedule,
okay.
it's on budget,
Okay.
and it's supposed to be done St. Patrick's Day-ish. So that's
And that's
all you needed.
that's plenty for
Okay.
me. Yes, yes. Like I say, just
Yeah, it's right. Okay.
Oh,
that.
oh,
Um,
God.
So then, so we kind of did that. Maybe we could do a senior services. That's historic too. So maybe we could do senior services. update. Get Elizabeth in here, Debbie. That would be great. Okay. Then I think we come back in May. That was also part Edgewater plan, master plan will have like the preferred option. We'll fine tune that and come back and get your recommendation to take to council. And then prepare for our joint meeting with council, which will be in September or June. And then June, typically all we do is we do our joint meeting, and what we do there for you new folks is we talk about what our accomplishments were for the last year. We go over the work program, kind of talk about where we're going and what the plan of action is, just to make sure we're still on track with what they told us we were supposed to do this year. July, because I do think I'm doing a CIP for them in June. I'll bring that in and we'll do a big update. And maybe we could focus on the street and priority matrix, because that the CIP will talk about what we've recently accomplished, what's in the works, what's on deck. And that could be something that comes on deck. That'll be a big meeting. We don't usually meet in August. Usually we have some kind of social. In September, we come back with the Nisqually Partnership Project update. So that's there. The September, that might be a good time to talk about playgrounds.
Yeah.
That might be for the pardon me, October. Canterbury Boat Launch Master Plan. I think we're just really going to be focusing on the MOU. It's really probably going to be an update at that point, but that might be a good time to talk about playgrounds, because we do have in 2025 and 2026 replacements that are happening. That would be a good time, and then we could talk about some of the kind of cool things we're doing at Words Lake. So and then climate change and urban forestry, that would be more towards the end of next year. Hopefully they'll have time to have gotten some things developed and go with that. And then often we don't need December because it's Christmas Eve. So the only things that we didn't really put in there is lake management and stewardship. So kind of what were you thinking a little bit more?
So I know we often say we want to make the lakes more accessible to the public. So how are we doing that?
Well,
Yeah.
part of it, like the street end update, that would address
Okay.
that, but that might be a topic, and I know there's just a lot going on here already, but one of the things we're gonna start doing in 2025, which will be here before we know it, is we're gonna be doing our Parks and Rec an open space master plan, which is a 20-year strategic plan that we're really focused on the next 6 years. So that might be a good time to really focus on the lakes as part of the long-term, strategic plan, because you know, the boat launch in American Lake is needing major restoration. And how do we deal with that? We're gonna be talking about Edgewater. Does it stay there? Does it get moved? And then the street ends. So that.
And the Camp
maybe
Murray
be a
is going
good
to be
time.
on the lake as well. That's another lake access.
Yeah.
And it might be a good topic that we bring up in our discussion with the city council.
Yeah.
If this is something that the
Mm.
board is interested in
Yeah,
in
how do you want
pursuing, and how does council want us to approach that, or what's their take on it?
So
That's a similar
Nikki,
question.
Yeah.
that's great. So from a side note, just so that we can put that in there when we prepare for the joint meeting with council, is talk about that we'll be starting, even though they should know this already, we'll be starting in 2025, the comp plan, or open
Pros,
space,
yeah.
plan update. Talking about lake management and stewardship and public access to lakes. You know, because we always talk about what do we want to talk to them about, or what do we want to ask them questions about?
I also like to ask them, you know, that the school ground that's there where Lake City School was, it's being used as a dog park all the time. Can we talk about that? Or we just let it happen?
Well, we've talked about that over the years, and it is an open space area, and it was an open space area for communities because they do use schools. And the school district wasn't letting anybody in because they said it was a liability. So obviously they'd either cut a hole in the fence or they've opened the gates. So that long-term planning could be that same conversation. I know when I mentioned it, you know, I mentioned things like that. We said, well, I think the school district gets to manage that. And they wanted to, I think, look at it for development, for housing and things, for that neighborhood area.
What school was that?
Lake City Elementary. It's kind of right between American Lake Park and the fire station, sort of, if you kind of did a angle circle.
Yeah.
And it's a big
That's
open
the Lake
space
City Church.
by the Lake City Church, yeah. And it was Lake City Elementary, and then Harrison Prep was there for a little bit, you know, they were in the computer clubhouse was in the basement, so it's a pretty important resource for the neighborhood. Excuse me, so. But yeah, I think that would be a good time.
Well, we did talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, there might be.
And there was some discussion, and I think Don Anderson brought up that. School district wanted to retain it for future schools,
Yeah,
and they didn't want to give that.
yeah,
But something like just a use like that, they
Oh,
wouldn't
sure.
interfere with
Yeah.
the school beat, you could always.
Short term in
Yeah.
a local
Yeah.
agreement.
yeah, and I'm
do
not
something.
sure the footprint would meet, the new sys. Like all schools, when they have the new, they want to build a new school, that there's specific requirements, and so often the footprint that they had doesn't work for what they've got, so. Because even like, for playgrounds, one of the playground replacements, and I think 25, like 26. Oh, 2 notes here, is, Lake Louise, right? We did Lake
Mhm.
Louise Elementary School many, many years ago. It was a partnership with the school district, and when the city first incorporated, one of the key ideas was we're 95% built out, we don't have enough parkland, and we don't have necessarily parks adjacent to every neighborhood. Why not use school sites? Because they're already being used by people, but how do you design them or build them or program them so it doesn't interfere with school activities, because that's their primary purpose. But also, how does it support that after school and weekend use? That if you don't, develop it properly, then it's a negative thing, like custodians are coming out constantly and having to clean things up and things like that. So it took, I don't know how many years to get us to do that, quite a few. And then once that project was done, I think it was about 2008, the school district was like, oh, this is a good idea. I'm sorry. And I said, well, I've had hundreds of thousands of dollars over the last 5 years to build one. And now I don't, because the economy kind of crashed and everybody was so fussy. So, but anyway, I think they've kept that up, and they may have already done replacements there. So maybe we pick a different school if we decide that's where we want to put those resources. And one that comes to mind is Tillicum. If you've been by that playground at that elementary school, it's the saddest thing I've ever seen. It's like an old Tinker Toy structure and pea gravel. It's really not very, so that might be something to talk about. And again, part of
That's a
our
really good
long-term
idea.
planning. Be good for,
Yeah.
start that
Those
conversation.
are also a great opportunity for partnerships too,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely, yeah.
That'll be about the right timing, 25, I hope. I hope we're moving past the H barn by
Yeah.
then.
And looking for other kinds of things, yeah.
Well, the other thing I keep thinking about is schools, and then this infill thing that's going on in Lakewood. With more infill, you've got more families coming in, you've got more kiddies around, and you need more school areas. You need more open spaces, and linking all your open spaces is wonderful. And I know with all the bike paths and stuff that they're doing now on the sidewalks, et cetera, they're approaching that, but need to think about playgrounds. American Lake Park, I mean, that's one park, but in the summertime, I don't consider it a park. I think it's a party area. Instead, I mean, it's a social area, but ball fields or just open spaces where kids can go kick a ball. I mean, well, I know it's Brian, I mean, it's Brian's in the school, but stuff. Talk about that at the Lake City community meetings, every time.
Oh, yeah, so, yeah, American Lake Park is a neighborhood park 9 months out of the year, and then the 2.5 months, it's a regional facility. I mean, it's a very much active area for people in town. There's nowhere else to get to lake. You don't have water access,
Yeah.
so it's a really important resource, so. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a great thing again to talk about with our comprehensive plan is getting that data. We redid how we did our level of service. In fact, many people in the state are looking at the way that we did it last time, because it wasn't just as a bird flies a half mile from your house. It was really talking about capacity, quality, and the amenities at those sites. So there was equity. So equity was important, but I think that's a really good conversation, is to talk about with those changes in housing and accessory dwelling units and the other opportunities that people might have to add more capacity to their space. How's that? And what is the data? I mean, not just
What's the data?
yeah, because they can do all of that with the permitting. We can find stuff
Okay.
find that out. So
Is that what Nikki does?
Huh?
Does Nikki do that?
So we would talk with our community development department, because they do the. She does the permitting whenever anybody's on a park space. We're not building houses on park spaces, so. No, ever.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen, except for like our caretaker house. I mean, that we inherited that, so we're lucky to have it, so.
No caretaker house, what's that?
Yeah, Fort Silicon Park, there's a person that lives there.
Really?
Just slightly north of the barns.
Yeah, we've had houses in other areas, but they're no longer.
seen that.
People own houses. So, yeah, it's been there for a long time. Just blends right in. You don't even notice it.
No.
So does that
Wait,
sound like a pretty
wait,
good
what about
schedule?
The, what do we call it? The linear park around Gravely Lake? Are we still?
Yeah, well, Public Works is, I mean, right now it's sidewalks area, so we're kind of maxed out with our ability to do projects and things. We've probably got $20 million worth of projects and, one person helping to manage them. So, and we do have stuff on the horizon. So, I mean, it's there and there's idea. The Arts Commission's looked at, some opportunities to do some public art, and so it might have some amenities added that way. But right now it's there and it's serving that purpose. And so that's that.
Just want to check in.
Okay, well, we'll send this on to council and see what they come back with. They may have some ideas of things they want to add too, so we'll have to look at how that fits with all of our objectives, so. Okay,
Did you want to talk about volunteering?
yeah, I did. I was gonna do that under director's report.
Oh, okay.
So we're ready for that?
Take it away, Mary.
Okay, so just to start off with, just for some side things, I already gave you half my report. So just to let you know that council did, with the park sign project, they did approve, the recommendation, and it was unanimous, and the consultants are working on some more detailed designs and nomenclature, just the wording for signs for the vehicle and pedestrian wayfinding. So that's kind of exciting, and we'll keep you informed of that. The Tensler log, that's the library log. I think we talked about this at our last meeting. Council approved the recommendation of putting it at Fort Silicon Park. And so we gave them 3 options, and that made the most logical sense for this very short period of time to move it forward. And so we're working on that. We're working on how we can get it moved. The library is in charge of moving it. But we have to find a place to put it, and you can only really do it once because it's 10 tons. And that takes footings, it takes engineering, it takes permitting, and then we want to make sure that we're protecting it. So we're looking at creating some kind of a shelter that you can see it and experience it. The mayor suggested a glass building. I don't think that's going to work in a park setting, but we're going to look at some opportunities. James Guerrero is working with us on that. And again, the clock is ticking, and the library they can't demo their building till they figure out what to do with the log. So that's why they want to do it in the first quarter. So we're working hard on getting that project done. The Nisqually Partnership Project, and I can give you guys more details on that for the new folks, but it's a really exciting project. We've been taught it's a lot of conversations and trust building and continuing to move forward. The MOU that the council signed, they're still working on it with the tribal council, and I'm working on it. Say it hasn't even gone to them yet because they're moving it through. But we have met with their Parks Commission twice, and they are going to be the planning and sort of decision makers to keep us moving forward with it. So we have a set group of people that we get to identify as helping us make decisions so that we can continue to move forward. But big pictures, we'll have a Nisqually Loop Trail. That's an area designated at the park, and it will have information and interpretive information on Nisqually culture, life, history, and today. It's really going to be a fun project. So, and the Tensler log is going to fit right in. It's going to be one of the exhibits because the Tensler log has those plaques that talk about history, which is primarily, I think, white civilization history. And so we want to add Nisqually history with that 500 and some odd years. So it really, I think, could be cool. And it would be just another element on our Nisqually trail. The fee schedule, we did a big fee schedule update and it went through council. Primarily, it was just fields, like new fees for the fields. And typically we would bring that through council, or our park board, it kind of hiccuped through the Edgewater Park process. We just didn't have time to bring that through, but we'll share that with you. We did a lot of research on comparative likes facilities. And so the idea is to set it for this next year, maybe 2 years, and get some data. How is it? You know, the prices are comparable to other like type facilities, might be a little more than people have expected to spend at Port Stolica, but the facilities could be really nice. So we'll see. We did not change the fee for like Lakewood Baseball Club and those kids. We just changed sort of the policy is that they can't have a game on a Saturday when we're trying to do a weekend tournament. They need to do like a Monday through Thursday, Monday through Friday use. But they still have the same fee, which is like the game. So and we'll see how that works and gather data and then come back and figure out if we need to do some other things. I just want to remind you it doesn't really have anything to do with us, but the Fallen Officer Drive is tomorrow, the food drive. And as you know, with the murder of our officers that happened so many years ago, that they decided to do something to benefit the community. Following that, it really brought our community together. And so you can drive by the police department and you can drop off food, you can drop off money. I think you can leave food here too. And then there's also a blood drive. There's a lot of need for that in our world community, so it's not hard to do. And if you want to donate blood, they have a thing set up there and you can donate blood as well. And then our holiday parade of lights is coming up, and our city tree lighting. That's on December 9th, a week from this Saturday. The parade's from 4:30 to probably 5:30ish, and then we'll do the tree lighting. It's a lot of fun. All the choirs will be singing in schools, and it's really pretty and fun. And so come on out with your family, or if you want to be in the parade, it's also very fun. Just love it.
Depends on your idea of fun. Depends on your idea of fun.
Well, and Vanessa,
I was gonna say, and I'm gonna be the announcing.
Oh,
Right.
good for
Your
you.
MC.
Yeah, there you go. No pressure.
There's an episode of Frasier where he has just major heartache about the banter that he has to do. for
Oh.
his parade. So
Oh, yeah.
it's working on my video.
There you go. Yeah, watch that episode. of-
Yeah.
Like through a radio, or how do you?
We're gonna be out there.
Yeah, they
just
put
as
it, well,
fly.
it starts over at Park Lodge,
Yeah.
is where we bait stage. And then they come out and they go down Gravelly Lake, and then they come into the mall on Main Street, and they come around the tree, and then Santa comes, and then they light the tree, and then yay, hark the herald. And so that's that. And so she'll be out here on a platform. They usually do it, the announcing
Oh, okay.
just from here up by the tree, so that those folks that are here can just get a summary of who's in the parade.
Okay.
I still have my Christmas outfit, my flash mob.
Oh my gosh, that was so cute. Yeah,
Pulling that out.
yeah, that's fun. So wear your ugly sweater and come on down.
Yeah.
And then the city just learned that we received $100,000 deferred maintenance grant. So the state WRPA, Washington Recreation Parks Association, we lobbied for the state to provide resources to parks, local parks and recreation agencies for deferred maintenance. They provided last year, the year before, $5 million to state parks, Department of Ecology, and DNR lands. For, if you've gone to a state park or anything, there's a lot of deferred maintenance, and so they gave them resources to do that. We said, well, local parks and recreation take care of more people in the world than the state parks. And so we lobbied for them, especially through COVID. There was a lot of extra impact and also loss of staffing and things like that. So anyway, they gave $5 million. They had $19 million, something like that, of requests. So they showed there was a real, and it had to be deferred maintenance. It wasn't for new programs or new development. It had to be really deferred maintenance, playgrounds, slides, boat launches, stuff like that. It's a pretty short period of time too to do the project. So we were number one in our category. Just saying. And so we got $100,000 and the project's gonna all be at Perry Todd. You know, part of it was equity and income need and access. And so we'll be looking at the parking lot there, restriping the parking lot, putting in some islands because there's a lot of that drifting stuff that's happening in there in that area, fixing some gates, redoing the basketball courts, cleaning up between like we're gonna be doing pickleball, 4 pickleball
good.
courts there. That's a new project, but that's a different grant. But kind of all the parking area around there with the gravel and such. So just doing a bunch of maintenance, and we plugged in a seasonal staff person for 3 months to do deferred maintenance. So that'll really help us all here in the city. So it was a good application, and here we go. Boom, boom. Yeah, yes. And then just a quickie, the ball fields are making great progress. They're almost done. Springbrook is pretty much done. We're doing our last walkthrough. I think it was today. It might be tomorrow. And then Wards Lake phase 1 and 2, which are big projects, they're in permitting. And so moving forward with that, that'll start hopefully and after next summer, maybe early. And do you remember when we put on that list for Wards Lake? We're gonna do them all together. So I don't.
How about American Lake?
Oh,
Where are you with that?
American Lake Park is in permitting. It took 9 months to get our SEPA. We can't even do the Corps of Engineer or Department of Ecology permit. So that will start probably next October after summer. Start construction, yeah. The design's done and it's in permitting and anything near the water. And the problem is, I mean, it's just complicated. Anytime you're by the water and then you have 2 parcels and like the retaining wall for the park project is actually on the boat launch side. So then you have to have a variance because it's 2 properties and God forbid you might want to sell one of them, which will never happen, but you know, it's just gone on and on. So we're doing the best. So that's that. So Janet mentioned volunteer management. So first of all, are there any questions about what I just said? Volunteer management. So to piggyback, we talked about this, I think, at a previous meeting, or you may have known. So we had this big fire last year at Fort Silicon Park, or this year, I guess. I'm already thinking January. Sorry. So we had the fire at Fort Silicon Park, and it was pretty scary. And you know, all of the stars in the universe were with us. It wasn't a windy day. We were able to get a emergency management or DNR helicopter that came and scooped water out of Lake Louise and dumped it to kind of retain this edge so it burnt in, and it really focused on, you know, grasses and scotch fir. I mean, it didn't hit the tree line and it got close to Pierce College, could have jumped over to Lake Louise area. I mean, there are a lot of blessings there, but it did do some, you know, it unearthed some things, it burned a lot of stuff. And so there were lots of people coming out, very concerned, first of all, about the park, as everybody is. But then, you know, as people start wandering back through the area, there were a lot of people like with these big ideas. Someone planted a tree, a lady wanted to do a bunch of wildflower seeds. Let's throw a bunch of wildflower seeds out there and see what happens. There's you know, that used to be up in the area where the piggery was. So there were some remnants of some historic things. You know, some people are like, let's get rid of it because there's wire, it's going to be dangerous. And it's like, you can't, it's a state artifact. So anyway, lots of people, lots of ideas and people wanting to do something. And so we had been kind of collecting names of folks. And so we said, well, we need to sit down and maybe have a meeting and do some brainstorming, but also educate folks because it's a historic area, it's a natural area. And we just were like, trying to fit that in with all the other things that we do. So Janet came in one day and offered, she's got lots of education and history and expertise. And so she came in to brainstorm with us. And so we sat down and talked about a lot of things. And I'm just going to sort of run through the list. I sort of summarized our list, and then maybe we could have a conversation about this, because the great thing was you start off with having the meeting to talk about one thing, and it really led us to talk more about some other things. And it's really about what we have capacity to do, right? And Alan, I'm glad you're here today because you have done so much with the South Sound Wildlife Area, the Game Farm Park, that you might provide some insights as well on just the management of those kinds of restoration sort of efforts. So we talked about, like I said, the big ideas that were coming forward and this interest in folks to do something or do nothing, but saying that something needed to be done. So we talked about that we have our old master plan. I was going to bring it in. But it was really, it's sort of a master plan of Fort Slocum Park, but it was really done with LTAC funds. It was done in advance of the US Open. We were really talking about the golf course over there at first, but then it was like, what can we do at the park? So it's really kind of more based on more of a tourism than it was really on any kind of wildlife management or that kind of master plan. And that's kind of how the farm theme sort of bubbled up to the top. But we saw that's sort of an older master plan. We've done little site plans for areas, but not really a big overview of the park for many, many years. But one of the things is that we really need a master plan for nature and wildlife management. We really don't have that at that site, and that's something we should be thinking about. One of the things that we came out of this was, you know, brainstorming that we kind of need to determine areas, like, because there's the prairie area, there's the orchard area, there's the oak prairie or the oak tree area. We have all these different areas, and we need to determine, identify and define areas, and then have management issues and goals for each area. We talked about maybe creating demonstration areas, creating demonstration projects or spaces, talking about you just can't do everything all the time. You can't do everything at certain times. You really need to have the right season and the right task for the space. You know, we have Scotch broom out there. We have these Scotch broom pullers, and they started strong when we became a city. They had been working in the park since the county, but we've got all these people doing their own little spot. I do this area, I do this area. And so there's like piles of Scotch broom all over. Sometimes we know where they are. Sometimes we don't. One of the things was in the fire, you know, Scotch broom burned. Yay. But people are sort of, they've got their spot. So there's not this connected sort of impact area. So, you know, and you sort of don't want to be disrespectful for the folks that are working really hard. Scotch broom pulling is, I mean, very laborious and labor intensive and hard work. And you've got folks that are doing it. You know, you don't want to discourage that, but really everybody's sort of doing their own thing in their own area. We've got talked about the Ivy League. We've got ivy and invasive stuff all over. And so it's like, you know, do you focus on some areas doing the pulling of the ivy off certain areas? We've got blackberries everywhere. Talked about goats that graze, bring the goats in. That's kind of fun and exciting, but also how do you manage blackberries? There's just, you know, so we did a bunch of work this year. We had, mowed a bunch of stuff down. I mean, there were blackberries in front of benches. You couldn't even see anything but the blackberries. So we mowed a bunch of stuff down. You worked with our youth corps to help remove them, but, you know, maybe focusing on just one area and really getting an area under control. Talked about the apple orchard and the oak prairie, finding stewards. Native plants, you know, someone wants to just put a bunch of wildflowers out there. Well, that's, you know, are they going to create new invasives, right? And so really talking about what kind of a mix or where do they belong and do they belong? Mother Nature's already bringing that area back, right? So maybe we don't need wildflowers there, but maybe there's another space that would do that. Everybody loves that little strip of wildflowers right by the bus stop. It's over across from Western State Hospital on Silicon Boulevard. It grows and it's cool and it stays that way for a long, long time because nobody's really disturbing it. And everybody loves that. So they think, oh, let's put that everywhere. But a lot of poppies in there. And then just to remember that wildlife lives here too. How are we supporting and protecting the wildlife? The birds and the animals and the things that are running around in the park. How do we support those and protect those? And out of all that, we talked about, you know, Nikki kind of helps coordinate Parks Appreciation Day and Make a Difference Day. We haven't done that for a bit, but it's a lot of work for one day. And a lot of people like to come in and they do a one and a done. We have groups and churches and families. They come in and it's one and done. But when you start looking at these ongoing volunteer programs, it's like managing them, making sure that, you know, you're finding the champions. Like for a space, Vito really cares about the orchard, but doesn't care about Scotch broom. You really want to focus on the burn area and because of the historic area about it, but you know, you don't really care so much about the lake. So it's like really finding the champions and who cares about a certain area, so that we can make successful use of their time and interest. Because sometimes people call and just say want to help. Other people might have a specific idea, but you need to train them. They need to have awareness of their duties. We need to make sure that there's monitoring so that, there's not a risk or a safety issue. And also that people aren't kind of going too far outside of their lane. We need to support our volunteers, keep them updated with what's happening. We need to prepare for the volunteers to be there, and we often clean up after the volunteers leave. Sometimes it's a real feel-good day. There's a lot of work that happens before and a lot of work that happens afterwards. Safety and liability, and then recognizing our volunteers. And so, we use volunteers all the time for lots of different stuff, but everybody sort of does their own little thing. Like we have the older adults with the seniors. They had a really amazing volunteer group that did all the stuff, but Elizabeth and Debbie really focused on that. The police department has some volunteers. We all have, we do volunteers for our special events, but we don't really have a good volunteer management program or a volunteer coordinator in the city. And so I think that's something, we're losing out on opportunities to get a lot of that extra work done, but also to make use of those folks. When the city first incorporated, we did Park Appreciation Day. We were one of the what do you call them, founding members of that We're doing it for 23 years now, I think.
Yeah.
We had 500 volunteers at 10 different park sites. I mean, people were just dying to do something with their community, to give back when they might have just moved here. They've been here for a long time and they want to support the parks. And we just, we had lots to do. So people are really interested in that. But, the one day you can kind of build up and do, but then you're going back to all this other stuff that we talked about today. So anyway, so I just wanted to throw all that out there. I thought it was a really good conversation. And we kind of went from let's have a meeting to brainstorm about this fire area to really, and Janet, thank you. You really provided some great insights and thoughts. That was sort of the summary. Is there anything that we kind of missed?
No, I think you really, I think we should launch into like Alan's example of a champion of an area. You've been interested in that and you put your energy into it. And then when volunteers come to work there, you kind of have a set idea what'll happen. And I was thinking, we don't have a volunteer manager and we don't have anyone on the horizon. It's going to, but perhaps we could do some help it somewhat with maybe a form. You want to do something, who's going to be in charge, what are the dates, so everybody that needs to come pick up afterwards is notified. We're going to make a big pile of Scotch broom on this day and this is who's doing it. Who would you like us to recognize? Maybe just when these champions like Alan might want to show up and say, we want to get rid of this blackberries, or we want to go rip out this ivy. And it's how long is it going to take you? And so that they assess for us what their needs are going to be, and then we can schedule it out. I mean, that's kind of like managing volunteers without the manager.
Kind of, but someone still has to sort of manage.
Yeah, we still have to do it, but
Alan, could you talk a little bit about you've been doing this and you started with an
We
idea?
had 110 people in October
Yeah.
on our work day, and that's all I do now is volunteer management. We got a group of ROTC students that are required to work 4 hours public service a month. So I see them once a month out there and I always have a job for them. So I would say if the first thing for the city would be to define what areas you want to look like what's going to be Oak Savannah, what's going to be open prairie spaces, what's going to be cover brush for your rabbits and your wildlife and your bunny, or and all of that, and find a champion for each of those 3 eco zones. Maybe somebody who's willing to be the volunteer coordinator for you. And then the rest is all just detail work of figuring out, we got to clear this. We put Romer's fescue for some new grasses in here, but we know that it's not going to be wildflowers, but you can plant camas bulbs, mow right over the darn things. They pop up forever then, and you've got wildflowers started and they'll do their own thing.
Right.
So there's lots of things you can do. If you have a champion, you can't take it on.
right,
I mean, that's the reality.
right.
So you've got to find a champion for each of your eco zones maybe, and let them kind of run with the
Yeah.
ball. And if you find somebody with some real passion in it, you
Yeah.
can get a lot of volunteers, and they'll go find their own volunteers and set their own schedule.
And then the city can just support, so maybe we have a meeting of people who are interested, all those people that are interested, have them come together and see who rises to the top as the champions of these, after we define the areas.
What are some of your other thoughts on just this conversation and ideas?
My thoughts is petitioning the city council, because as much as I've dealt and worked with volunteers over the years, it a lot of times, as much as your intentions are to not have it fall on staff, it ends up falling on staff, and then that's taking away from your other priorities. And like you say, we do Parks Appreciation Day as well, and it's a serious amount of work beforehand and then a serious amount of work afterwards. And so we're not doing our normal duties as we should be, because you're attending to those. And to me, there's a case to be made for a volunteer coordinator position that city, because it's a force multiplier, and you're leveraging that one position for well over the amount of working hours that would be full-time equivalents. And so to me, that's the lobbying, and to me, let's put it as a point for our joint meeting and conversation. I mean,
And we,
finding money for positions is difficult too. I understand that, but you advocate and
So you've done the calculator of how many volunteer hours do we have 1 year? And at this rate, this is the value of that. And I mean, we have that Metro, and we had a volunteer coordinator that would help coordinate. He was overwhelmed. I mean, there's so much to do that, the idea of going back and doing a little more thorough master plan at Fort Silicon Park is right. You know, it's an important piece. If you're going to start defining these locations and these areas, and I mean, we've done good with Fort Silicon Park, but we've done little bits and pieces here and there, and we prioritize those bits and pieces, but there's a lot around the fringe that has not been addressed, and that's what we're talking about. So to do a thorough master plan for Fort Silicon Park is probably on the cusp.
yeah, we looked at that. We're putting together right now for city council and city manager is sort of a 2024 to 2026, 27. This is just what we have in the works now. Part of it is a communication tool to show council. It's like, I know you've got a zillion big ideas, but this is what we're doing now. It's a lot, right? Which is great. And Public Works is doing a lot with streets and roads, which is great. And then it's like you have a lot of these great big ideas. It's like, how do you fit them in? So one of the things we looked at is it's like, even when we were working on, and it's not tomorrow, but getting ready to work on the PROS plan, the Park Recreation Open Space Plan. It's kind of like when we did the last one, which was in 2020. So the next one's 2026, has to be a 6-year plan. Is that's when we did planning for American Lake, and that's when we did planning for Wards Lake. Besides all of the planning we did throughout the community, we hyper focused on those sites because we were capturing all the energy and the attention, and we did it at farmers markets and at concerts and down at the International District, at grocery stores. I mean, we did a lot of conversations with people all over the community. So we kind of talked about that would be a good time to sort of, because you'd be also having some money to do consulting and stuff, get some folks to help us do that master plan, because it is really important, right? When we did the plan that we have now, it was one of those things, literally, I think lodging tax, LTAC, lodging tax is where we did the money we were doing it for the golf course. We were doing a master plan for the Pierce County or the Western State Hospital golf course, because US Open was coming. We're like, what could we do with that to make it more interesting and to bounce off that we're having all these golfers coming to our community? Could it be used for parking? Could it be used for overflow, just to kind of do it? And the county hadn't done anything out there for so long. So we did that. And as the council is approving the grant to do this master plan there, someone said, well, shouldn't we let's do a master plan for Fort Silicon Park too. And I'm like, $10,000, which is not very much money from a consultant perspective. Even back then, it wasn't very much money. I was just looking at it, found someone with a sharp pencil. So, but anyway, that's how we did that whole plan for Fort Silicon. And it was just like not even expected, right? So it's good. It's kind of a good plan, but it's a master plan. And it's been quite some time. So I think it would be good to really, that is such an important resource for our community. And we are sort of band-aiding all over the place without a real big picture, so.
Well, at the time, I mean, there were lots of great ideas, but it was an affront to the community. I mean, they accused us of turning it into an amusement park
Yeah.
at times and stuff like that. But if you think about the evolution and where we've come from then to now, I mean, it's a vastly improved park and doesn't extend the bounds of what the community had concerns over at the time.
Well, I guess the fire opened our eyes too.
Yeah.
An important elements of the park. Yeah.
It created an opportunity
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Get public
Yeah.
aware of it, so you
Right.
should ride that wave while
Right.
you
Yeah.
can.
And not only for the management and protection of the park, but we also found it's like, okay, this happens. How do we even access those areas, right? You know, trails that might need to just be widened so that if you needed to get some kind of emergency vehicle back, you know, it's like. So, same things like that. So. Good. Okay, that's good. So any other big ideas or Ellen, like when you say that's when you do a lot of that, how much time do you think you spend actually trying to coordinate all that work? Or did you guys do a master plan? How do you kind of decide, or did you work with the state?
Yeah, I've worked with the state on the master plan for the area that we'd be developing.
Yeah.
And the ones in
You've
charge
been
of.
doing amazing.
But then, you go out and we've recruited all the help from the service organizations too, to come help, because that's something that doesn't cost money. They're
Right.
always hit up for money.
Right, but all the volunteers, which is great because you know, and then they show up and they're like, tell me what to do.
Well, and then friends have told friends have told
Yeah.
friends, so my emailing list now for that, when we do a work party, is probably 200 people.
But you have some sort of master idea, like,
We have a master
finish
plan for the
this and
whole
then
area,
we'll be
and
working
we have a
this,
whole
yeah.
list of jobs to do.
Uh-huh.
We've got some grants for it. We just got another grant now that from Pierce County Watershed. We work on a little specific areas. So, and I got Eagle Project today, so I had an
Oh,
Eagle Project.
Awesome. Do you, did the state do the master plan and help you?
I did it with the state's
state.
direction, kind of what they thought, but they're so busy, they're like everybody
Oh,
else.
yeah,
So I said, well, this is the area that we want the public to use, and this is what it used to be and what it could be.
Yeah.
And moved forward from that with what's next and what's next.
Yeah. Such a benefit, not only for that site, but for the state, right?
Have you seen the signs now?
No,
You gotta
well, I
take a
saw,
look at the signs are installed now.
did you get the new signs?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to go back and take a look at that.
I run through that area, part of my 4 mile run. In fact,
Yeah.
I saw you on the tractor. So I can attest to hard work that he does there. You're there a lot of time.
Well, when Northwest Youth Course there, I'd spend that whole 2 weeks with them out there too. But a lot of it's, you go help work for an hour, get somebody started doing a project, go back to my job and my other stuff too. We do keep
Yeah.
track of all the volunteer hours, and I could share that with you
Yeah.
that we've done, but it's just gives you an idea what the potential is.
Yeah.
We are thousands of volunteer hours
So
in
those,
3.5 years.
so those signs were funded by the state then.
Those signs were funded by 3 different sources, because there's $12,000 worth of signs. But partly from the state, partly from Rotary, and partly from
Okay.
another part.
Who signed those for you?
Me.
Oh, you
But then I had a art company lay them out.
put that together?
Yeah.
I'm sure we have community members more like Alan, that, all the leadership, all the retired leaders in this community, been trained by our federal government to be leaders. And they, yeah, there will be people that will step up and have the skills that we need. But it would be nice to have a manager.
Yeah, just someone that has their arms
Yeah.
around all of those
Yeah.
champions.
Yeah.
It really makes a difference. It makes it cleaner and
Comprehensive view of.
of it. Yep. And lessens the burden on existing staff. 'Cause, when I say burden, and that's not how I mean it, but it's
just
other duties as assigned and it bogs you down.
And you're really like, when we talk about not just Park Appreciation Day, because we do have groups that come out. Sorry, I keep going back to you. We do have groups that come out, employee groups, military groups, church groups that want to come out and do a project, right? And then they come and like, we want to do a project. And you're like, okay, what do you want to do? We don't care. But we only have, this many people or this much age or this ability or this whatever. So it's good, but you got to figure out what can you do? Because finding a project for 40 people is a lot. divide and conquer. We usually send them over to the cemetery too. They're always good about coming out and doing a project, but as I tell my staff, it's like, they're like, oh my gosh, for the amount of time it takes to prep for those folks and then to manage those folks and then to clean up afterwards for those folks, it's like, I've just done it, right? But it's like part of the thing is that you're building stewardship, right? You're building, people come back and they look at what they built and they look at what they did and they are building stewardship for your system and to support your parks and support your programs. So it's important to do that and let people appreciate their ability to give back and, get people outside. You need that. So
Do you work with schools too?
we work with everybody. We work with, and one of the things we talked about is natural partners is Pierce College. We've had really great involvement from them. We've had no involvement from the environmental side of it, we work with school district, different classes. We have a group that comes out there. It's their like significantly disabled population. They come out and Jay's so great. Give them all a bucket, tell them that today they're picking up pine cones, or rocks or whatever they're doing. But it's just another way. And they come from lakes, so they're just coming down the hill. And again, it gives folks that might not be able to do some other things, the ability to give back and help and be outside.
Environmental learning as well.
Absolutely. So, yeah, Clover Park Technical College, we kind of worked on and off with those folks. They really kind of focused too across on in that area by Flat Creek. Thank you. So, yeah, there's like I think there are a lot of folks in the community. It's just really taking the time. And we'll get some people started and then someone's excited they're the champion, but then they get hurt or they move or something happens. And then all of a sudden you're like trying to keep it going. It's just a lot.
That's where a position would be really good.
Anyway, this is good brainstorming and just, we wanted to bring it up because again, we kind of started with what are we gonna do with this fire area? Let's get all these people on. It really it's kind of evolved into a much bigger conversation, important conversation. So thanks for sharing your time and today for sharing your details. So keep on keeping on.
All right, thanks, Mary. Any reports from board member comments?
Yeah, I've got weed pullers if you need them now. Back the other way.
Okay, good.
You have a big day. I think we got 4 that I keep for the state now.
Oh,
They're not cheap
Weed
either.
wrenches, the weed wrenches.
Weed
Yeah,
wrenches.
they're like 250.
Yeah,
bucks a
exactly.
day.
They're not cheap. Awesome.
Do you guys need any noxious weed information anywhere? Have pamphlets. I can get you anything. Somebody, do you need them in the parks?
We try not to put paper out in the parks because it ends up on the ground, but there could be opportunities if you think, about.
Think about it.
Again, we have the pavilion. We're doing a lot more programming in the pavilion. So there are opportunities if we wanted to have, a community class or meeting or activity. You can also use City Hall, good neutral space. Anyway, just keep that in mind. And, if there's, like we had the woman that came from the Noxious Weed Board, that was really interesting. And, yeah.
Purchase plant ID. I'm not sure that there is poison oak out there.
Oh, probably.
Probably tons of.
There's going to be a Lakewold. There's going to be it's actually a free pesticide training seminar during spring break. And there will be some plant ID there. It's for people that need to keep up their pesticide credits. For like landscape business owners that need that. But you could see the parks people could come and get credits for their pesticide applicators. We board.
They're doing some renewal. They get certified, so they're doing their certification.
WSU, it's all your registrations right now for all that credit
Right.
stuff, so.
Yeah.
You're like
So-
this.
Folks that need to
Yeah.
get their license.
So these will be accredited
Okay,
classes.
oh, that's good.
Yeah.
You said they're free?
Yep.
Yeah, all right. I like free.
Yep, I'm on the chair of the education committee for the weed board. So
For the weed board?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
That's why I'm like, yeah, come get educated. We're trying to make it free.
And you're doing it at Lakewold?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, we coordinated with Christine
Yeah.
Any other comments? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Next meeting's in January. I don't know the number, the date of it.
It's on the bottom of your agenda typically.
Ah,
No, I didn't put it on.
What?
The new format. January 23rd.
The fourth Tuesday of
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Nesta, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Happy holidays.
Yeah, happy.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you.
2024, that's the first time I've wrote 2024.
Oh, it's
I don't know if I'm prepared for that.
It's on.
Oh, yeah, yeah.